What's going on, everybody? The Original Mako. And first, stop what you're doing right now. If you're watching this when this video comes out, go to the links in the description. Check out the Twitch channel. I am probably streaming right now. We have a lot of cool people over there to talk to, and we have a lot of fun on streams. And honestly, I'm probably more of a natural streamer than I am a YouTuber for making videos. So check that out. We're going to try to make a push to partner when the full release for this game comes out, and I need all the help I can get, and you could be part of that push. Wouldn't that be cool to say you were there before I got famous, which is definitely going to happen. So check that link out in the description right now. I'm probably streaming right now if you're watching this when it comes out. Even if you're watching it in the future, might be streaming. So check it out. But this is a top weapons video for the new character. We do this for all the new characters when they come out. We still have the tips and tricks video for the boss, the new hero, a tier list video, one more weapon to showcase. So we still have a few more videos of new content for sure to come, but this is one of them. And I just wanted to go over my opinion on the best weapons for the new hero and why these are the best weapons for the new hero, and just kind of give my insight into that because I know you guys like to see that. So that being said, let's go ahead and hop into it here. And one thing we're going to be focusing on, I want to point this out before we do this, is a lot of these heroes, very few of these heroes, I would say the Q is better than the E. And when the tips and tricks video comes out, this will make more sense. But when you build with this hero's Q, the bunny's Q, it usually ends up with better runs than the E. So that's why some of these things I'm going to say are what they are. The main thing here is when you mark an enemy with the Q, it lasts for 6 seconds, and it'll deal damage to a marked enemy again whenever you hit 12 times. Okay, so whenever you hit an enemy 12 times, this 600 damage, or if you've built into it, higher damage, will proc additionally. So that's important to keep in mind. This 12 is a big deal here. So we're going to go over the honorable mentions first, as we always do. First on that list is our boy, the Illusion. And the Illusion is very good because it has a high rate of fire, so it can get you blade heart stacks, because for every shot that you take, you get a blade heart stack, and it can get pretty high when it's fully charged up. But the reason this is an honorable mention is mainly because it shoots out 10 projectiles, which means with 2 hits, you're going to be proccing the Q again, the Wild Bloom. You're going to proc it again. And it's a pretty relatively tight spread, so it's not hard to hit most of these projectiles. Chances are every other shot you're going to be proccing the Bloom, the Wild Bloom. So that's why this is an honorable mention. It's a great weapon. It does decent at stacking blade heart, but if you're building fully into your Q anyway, blade heart stacks don't really matter. So if you're going for a full Q build, this weapon does a ton of damage. Basically every other shot you're going to be proccing that Q again. So super good, and not to mention the fact that the Illusion is just already an S tier weapon. So the fact that it's really good on this character means it makes it even better, and it's just an overall great weapon for the character. The other honorable mention I'm going to go with is the Demon Lore. Obviously another S tier weapon, but it has a rate of fire of 14. So this is if you're working more towards that E, which, mind you, the E, her ultimate, the swords, are still very viable as a build. Okay, I don't think they're quite as optimal, but they're still fun and super viable as a build option. So with 14 rate of fire, you're going to be stacking those blade heart stacks pretty high. Not to mention if you get advanced depot against the flow, you basically win the run with the Demon Lore already. So the fact that you'll be able to have the Demon Lore hitting crazy numbers and be able to stack damage, and be able to stack blade hearts pretty quickly, makes this a pretty good option for this character. And by that I mean, like, in all of these weapons, even the honorable mentions are S tier options for this character specifically, without a doubt. So next we'll go to our top 3 for this character. And number 3 is going to be the Scalpel. Scalpel has a high rate of fire. Okay. The big thing about the Scalpel is just the fact that its rate of fire is rate of fire is 12, but the big thing about the Scalpel is the crit. Okay, at 3.5 crit, it really doesn't need a lot of help to get going. Something like the Demon Lore, if it has like magazine capacity up, it's really good. But even with just 30 bullets in the mag, the Demon Lore can lack in damage a little bit. The Scalpel doesn't really need any help in the damage department, and it's going to stack blade heart stacks very quickly. Magazine is a little bit higher than the Demon Lore, so you can get a few more shots off, stack the blade heart a little higher before you have to reload. I think this weapon is just a little bit better than the Demon Lore. Demon Lore has a 1.3 reload time as well. Scalpel has a 1.1. So you're just going to be getting those blade heart stacks a little bit quicker. Even though the rate of fire is slightly lower, the magazine size and the reload time makes up for it. Obviously, you could get inscriptions on a Demon Lore or the Scalpel where there's rate of fire up, or reload speed, or magazine size. So all those things can affect it for sure. But if we're just going based off of the base weapon, the Scalpel, will definitely get you those blade heart stacks just a little bit quicker. So that's why the Scalpel's here, and it doesn't really need any help to get those high damage numbers, because if you're hitting the head, this thing's crit multiplier is just through the roof. So the Scalpel is a wonderful weapon, especially if you're building that E. Again, this is one of those E build weapons. Blade heart stacks will come naturally with this weapon for sure. And then before we get to number 2, just a quick preface. If any weapon has a projectile up on it, that's always really good, because both projectiles, like if it has +1 projectile, both projectiles count. It counts as 2 to the blade heart stacks as opposed to 1. So any weapon with increased projectiles automatically goes near the top of the list if it's a fast-firing weapon. Next up, number 2 on the list, we have a tie, basically a tie between 2 weapons, because they're basically the same weapon, but one of them's a little bit better. I'll explain in a second. It's the gloves, okay? The laser gloves and thunderclap gloves. Now, I'm going to talk about these for just a second here. So if we take a look at them, the laser gloves has 16 rate of fire. I believe that was the thunderclap gloves. Laser gloves also have 16 rate of fire, okay? The difference is laser gloves they're like polar opposites in terms of what they do. Laser gloves are really, really good for single target removal, because it deals increasing damage on the same target, as you can see on the screen here. And the lightning gloves, thunderclap gloves, shoot a lightning ray that spreads out one target to another, so it does AoE damage. So both gloves are really good because of the 16 rate of fire. They're going to stack the blade heart stacks faster than pretty much any weapon in the game. And then if you get an increased rate of fire on one of them, it's crazy. Oh, excuse me. I got up early this morning. But it's crazy how fast that this thing stacks blade hearts. I do think the thunderclap gloves are a little bit better. A lot of you probably saw my video yesterday with the +29 thunderclap gloves. Okay. The reason I think this is maybe just a little bit better is because of one specific ascension here, which is flower chain. So when you hit an enemy that's marked by fatal bloom with a weapon, deal 100% weapon damage to up to 2 other marked enemies. So if you mark enough enemies, which you can spam your Q pretty heavily, but if you mark enough enemies, then when the thunderclap glove damage spreads out, then the flower chain procs on those enemies, and then on those enemies. It's like a never-ending chain. So if you mark every enemy in a room and you hit one enemy and just start spreading that lightning damage out, it's going to hit pretty much every single enemy in the room. So I think that's why the lightning gloves might be just a little bit better. Not to mention that some of these things, such as like Blade of Bloom, or no, not Blade of Bloom. There was another one. The chance to Empathy with Sword. Chance to summon a flying sword to hit enemies when you deal damage to an enemy. So the more enemies you're hitting, the more chance you have to summon these swords. So there's just a few different things that I think make the lightning gloves just a little bit better. And the AoE damage is going to be there for you. So, but both gloves are really, really good, especially at stacking that blade heart damage. So, and if you get laser gloves, you're going to be melting bosses. So both of them are really, really nice. I think Thunderclap Glove has maybe just a little bit of advantage, but they're essentially tied for second place on this list here. And now we get to the big boy, number 1, which I don't know if, unless you watched the stream yesterday, you might be able to guess it. But if you didn't watch the stream yesterday, you might be thinking, well, what's number 1? I don't know. Could it be the big hippo? The story mode? Is it 15 rate of fire? You don't really have to reload it. A dragon chaser? I mean, rate of fire is 8, but, you know, Crimson Fire Scale. No. To answer all of your questions, it's actually our good friend, the Porcupine. Now, what? Why is it the Porcupine? Like I said earlier, I think the Q, building through the Q is more optimal and a little bit better than the E. The E is still very good, but I think the Q is a little bit better. And the Porcupine shoots 15 projectiles per shot. Okay? 15. So, when you hit an enemy with this, it is going to be proccing Bladeheart, or proccing Wild Bloom, almost every shot. Sometimes you might not hit all the projectiles. Okay, sometimes you might miss more than 3. But more often than not, the Porcupine is going to proc that Wild Bloom every time. So if you have a boss, you mark them with Wild Bloom, you start shooting the Porcupine, you're doing every shot just an additional 600 damage, if not more, if you've built into that Q. You're just doing a ton of extra damage every shot with this thing. There are some other weapons. I mean, it has a pretty high, not a bad rate of fire too, honestly. It can shoot pretty quick. It obviously has built-in elemental synergy to it, good damage, decent magazine size at 12. So it's just a really good weapon. Now there's some other weapons like the Argus, shoots 13. Problem with the Argus is the bullets spread out horizontally. So very, very few times are you going to hit 12 projectiles in one shot. With the Porcupine, it's a much more straightforward spread. So you don't have to worry about missing them as often, especially on bigger targets. Even on like let's use a Rogue Arsonist, for example. I don't know why that was the first big boss that came into my mind. But with the Argus, if you're like medium distance to far distance, I guess, I don't know. Unless you're like right up in his face, you're not going to hit all the bullets. They're going to spread past his wide body. But the Porcupines are going to stay a little bit straighter, even at a medium, maybe even long distance. So Porcupine just seems to be the better option in my opinion. The fact that you're proccing that Q so often, it is crazy. I mean, look at all this synergy that we can get. So if we take a look at the hero again, every time you hit an enemy 12 times, it does this 600 damage again. But you can get increased base damage percentage-wise. You can do every time you mark an unmarked enemy, your weapon damage and skill damage goes up. After marking an enemy with Fatal Bloom, you summon Flying Swords equal to the Bladeheart stacks. That's really good because if you're building this Q, it's not a super big deal if you just leave your Bladeheart stacks as high as they can be. So there's a lot of things that make this, like having Fatal Bloom proc at 300% damage every single time you do a shot. It's crazy. And not obviously Flower Chain. Basically, this ability becomes really good when you know how to use it. It was pretty underwhelming at first, but as I was streaming and stuff, people were giving me some tips, and the Q is really, really good. Imagine most normal enemies, let's say you're using a scalpel, okay? Unless you're at a really high difficulty, most enemies you're going to kill within 12 shots with the scalpel, right? More than likely, okay? With the Porcupine, it's probably going to take 1, 2, 3 shots with it, maybe, before you kill some enemies, even in the later areas of the first stage. So you're going to be getting that extra damage. You're going to be getting use out of that extra damage. With the scalpel or some other of these weapons, you're not going to be getting those extra procs because you're going to kill enemies too quick, or on like bosses and stuff, it's just not going to proc nearly as often or as quick as it will with our good friend, the Porcupine. So definitely going to have a video with the Porcupine and a Q build coming soon. I had a decent one on stream yesterday, but it wasn't quite as good as I wanted to make it. So anyway, those are the top 3 weapons. The honorable mentions, the Illusion and Demon Lore. And then we have the Scalpel at 3, the Gloves coming in at number 2, and then at number 1, we have the... Oh, wait, why can you scroll all the way? What the heck? That's bugged. And then at number 1, we have the Porcupine. But really, any weapon with a high rate of fire, I mean, Fire Dragon's going to be really good. There's some other automatic weapons. The Start of Hour is really not that bad. Concealed Ammo has a high rate of fire. Big Hippo, once it gets spun up, isn't bad. I mean, there's a lot of decent weapons that you can use on this character. Those are just my opinion for like the top 5 the honorable mentions, and then our top 3 for this character. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you think I missed any. If there's something that I've overlooked, I'm sure there is. I haven't had a chance to use every single weapon on the new character. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of the list. Hopefully it might help you guys if you're looking for some different weapons to use for this character. But either way, check out those links in the description. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate you guys more than you know. The support is just unreal. I fucking love this community. So thank you guys. You guys are amazing. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I love each and every one of your faces, and I will catch you all in the next video.